adjustments. Okay, so just assure coherence on the file. Okay, explicitly model the effect of special days. We want the model to learn the average effect of these days on electricity demand and applying in the predictions as well. So that's the importance of having these new realities out of the standard baseline historical data, so they don't contaminate the analysis, you know. So special days should include official days, extra days, long weekends, moved working days, okay, etc. We can adapt our calendar data to and customize it to take into account some specificities of the calendar that aren't already accounted on the default file. Okay, so you can see here an example. So you can add as many columns as you want in order to reflect the effect of these special days. Okay, be let's say unique, or in the sense that don't repeat information that it's already included in other columns as much as possible. Okay. Here we have 7 groups, but I believe you can extend it furthermore. Okay, so these are binary variables where you signal. Okay, that's you name here in the file. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, but I guess you can label it otherwise, so you don't get confused and you know exactly what kind of day you are modeling here. So you call it holiday, call it post-holiday, bridge day, August, etc. Anything you want, I guess. Okay. So you must follow these. This template with the date first. Then you can specify the month and the day on the next columns.
Sorry, no,
yes,
another quick question. We can name the cells directly here in this file and then save it.
Yes.
So it won't be a problem for the tool to read it.
I guess not.
All right.
I guess it won't be a problem if I remember well on the default file, calendar file, that is not called ABCD. I guess it's called bridge days and bank holiday. I guess it's what it's named. Okay, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, here each the years, each year you should fill in a sheet for each year. Okay, leap year days should also match the model load time series call. Okay, so it should take that into account. Okay. For seasonal outlook, it's important to provide an accurate calendar file. Okay, special days should be categorized coherently. Okay. So for each year, you make sure that the holidays and other special days are correspond to the dates. Yeah, they are indicated. So you should avoid overlapping. Similar days should be in the same group. Pay attention to the moving holidays. Okay? And for official holidays, you can, in case you are you want to fill in lots of years, you can go to this link and find the information you need. Yeah. So Anastasia, I'm not quite acquainted to this versioning issue. I don't know if you want to talk about this. Or anyone?
So
I guess yeah.
Yeah. So it's I think it's just about the the version of the file, of every file. So just pay attention not to change the format or anything, or the columns or labeling of the file.
Okay, so this is when working with lots of data and having to perform these estimations from time to time, you will tend to forget which file belonged to each scenario or to each exercise. Take care and of structuring the work and labeling the files in a way that you can track when they were used and at what model they are associated to. Okay, so we should also maybe creating a text file where you put all the information needed with the variables used on each model, the parameters that you used, what kind of rescaling you did, etc. Okay, so when you look at the work again, at the projects again, you can track the information that was inputted on the model and outputted on the model. Okay, so this is just a suggestion of how you could structure in terms of files and folder structure for a project. Okay, so dividing into raw data, here is an example for Hungary. I guess it was Andreas who made this slide. So as an example, here he created a holidays file for 2000 for an exercise of 2023, and the PMDB national trends that were used on a specific model. Okay, these were inputs, and then the results of that exercise, forecasting exercise, was downloaded to a specific folder of the results, the demand time series, the adjusted report, the global report, and the rescaling report. They were on a specific folder that has the same denomination as all the raw data and DFT inputs, etc. So you can track that the inputs that generated this output. Okay. And here the text file created as a more specific information that was a model per hour. Use these regressors where the guy that used the model inserted a certain number of splines for each regressor. And then the intervals of the forecasts, the years that he forecasted, the climate years used for that forecast, and the calendar year used that was a specific one. Okay, and then there was a PCD adjusted rescaling, and was energy growth and target amount were used. Okay, so at the end of the day, if 1 year later I want to revisit what I did in order to estimate a new model, I can recall exactly what work was performed the year before, for example. Okay, and then work on that experience, on that knowledge gathered before. I don't know if that was clear. This is a great suggestion to keep the workflow organized, because as maybe some of you may have that experience, when you retake the work, it can be sometimes a bit confusing because you can't remember. After so many estimations, you can't remember what file refers to what model. Okay. Is there any question about this these topics? If not, I'm going to back to the tool, the way suggestions of how to work with the DFT tool. Okay, in order to avoid some errors that are common and we want to avoid. Okay, so one of the challenges of forecasting models in general is what variables to choose in order to explain the demand. Okay, in order to explain and then forecast. So that may be a bit puzzling. What variables should we choose or not to choose? We have three possible approaches. One is the first one would be the legacy specification, where the modeler has some experience about demand forecast models, and then can use at least as a starting point, use the same variables he already used on other models. Okay. The other one would be general to specific, what I call general to specific. You can start with a model with all the variables available, and then and selecting progressively the variables you suspect aren't as relevant as others, and see the impact of removing those variables from the model. There should be ones that don't make any or very few difference in terms of the goodness of fit of the model and the response. So those may be irrelevant and should be taken out, or their results don't make sense, so they should also be taken out. And you should retain all others that give you good results, either in terms of goodness of fit or in the response of the model, namely those dependent plots we talked about on Monday. They should reflect the expectations or what is known about the impact of some regressor on the demand. Okay. Then remove the ones that you find that are not behaving or are relevant to explain the demand. Okay, this is more work intensive, of course. You have lots of combinations of regressors. Even if you have many regressors, their combinations can be quite a few. And then a final approach should be taking advantage of a feature that the DFT has, where there are some preset models that followed an algorithm in order to estimate the automatically best fitted model, what I called here as ABFM. Okay, this is an algorithm that was run for each market node and tried to find the best model just from a data mining perspective and automated perspective in order to make. Okay, then yeah, the model automatically choose regressors and I guess the splines used to make those models. Okay, and these are a good starting point to investigate if some variables should be removed from this automatically fitted model, or some adjustments to the parameters of the model. Okay, so you should combine your previous knowledge, if you have some of the forecasting models, and combine it with these three approaches. Maybe that would be my example of this third approach. Okay, and then also use some knowledge, some legacy specification knowledge that since I have some experience on modeling medium-term demand and long-term demand, use some of that knowledge to adapt this automatically best fitted model. So as I'm recalling here a Monday slide where we have seen this part of the interface of the DFT tool, where on GAM on the GAM models we can adjust what is called the splines for each of the regressors. Most of the regressors have some spline associated. This is how smooth your, according to each of these regressors is. The higher the number, the smoother the function that it is adjusted. Okay, and that we will see why that is important to adjust this smoothness of the functions. On random forest, there are the number of estimators and the depth of the estimators. These models, but these have a similar effect to the splines have in GAN. Okay, so you could explore the effect of extreme values and learn about the impact these two parameters have on the results. Okay. Well, let's see the importance of that. These smoothness parameters are as follows. They are here in order to avoid the overfitting problem. So let's give you an example of what overfitting is. Very simple and academic example where I generated a linear relationship between an x variable and y variable. Okay, that's a linear relationship with noise. Okay, I determined a simple first degree polynomial to relate x with epsilon, and you can either adjust it with a regression with a polynomial function, in this example a fourth degree, to adjust these points. And what the algorithm for a fourth degree polynomial will try to do is that to create a function that crosses all the points you have in the data. Okay, with the fourth degree you can do it perfectly. As you can see on this R squared, the function estimated crossed all the points in the data. If you choose to do a first degree polynomial, the model estimates a simple straight line that does not cross every point on the data and has a less goodness of fit indicator. R square is inferior to 1. Okay, so if we would trust solely on this indicator, the R squared, for the best model, what the best model is, we would choose the fourth degree polynomial, because it looking at the sample data, it guesses all the points you should. Okay, so this has obviously a problem. That is, if you want to forecast that same function, and then I simulated new x values and new epsilon values with the original generation data, and the polynomial, of course, diverged from what we wanted to forecast, whereas the linear model that I estimated fitted the data pretty well. Okay, so that's also why we do the training and the test periods, is also to look at the behavior of the model when we estimate not all the sample, but part of the. What happens when the model looks at new sort of data? Okay, that's always to for these effects and help us to tweak the model and avoid overfitting. Okay, so the problem with overfitting is that it gives you a false illusion that you have a good model, but in reality, it can't explain well how the variables relate with each other. And then the other problem is, as a consequence of that, it will be performing poorly in terms of forecasting. Okay, and just for that, to avoid those kind of problems, we should tweak well the parameters and choose well the variables included as regressors. So let's look at an exercise when we depart from a automatically fitted best model and try to improve it, so to say. Okay, we will estimate an hourly models for those both versions of this one, and the difference are here the differences are I excluded temperature, and on the variant model only used the smoothed temperature. I removed day of the year, since a good model, I guess, my intuition is that a good model should use physical data, things that have a causality that we can have, we can include some logic in that causation. Day of the year, I don't find it very either intuitive or
Can I make a
yeah.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about Portugal, but for example, in Bulgaria, you can have similar kind of temperatures during winter and during spring, and have significantly larger consumption during the year. So day of the year, for me, here makes sense.
Okay. I guess the challenge I made with Portugal was making an exercise. What can day of the year tell you? That temperature and irradiance and the week or don't tell you already. Okay, so I found that day of the year was a bit redundant about the information that irradiance and temperature already give you. For example, having the same temperature during December and during, for example, or March or April is certainly will have different effect, because we have different daylight conditions. Okay, so you have different conditions of the daylight that affect the way the people respond to the same temperature or the same, or to holidays or etc. So you have to turn on your lights much earlier and turn it off much later, where during winter or the peak of the winter, and on spring you'll have light. It will help you to not to have the same temperature feeling. Okay, so it helps more sunlight helps you reduce the electric consumption, having the same temperature, etc.
Yeah, I get you, but here you also include month, so it kind of makes it okay. So day of the year, yeah, you can skip.
Yes. You see, that's what I would if I didn't have maybe if I didn't have irradiance, for example, maybe day of the year would help me to catch that effect of the longer days on some and shorter days on. Yeah, you can see that. So you must do this critical exercise of looking at the variables you have, and to try to learn if that information is adding something valuable to your model, something that you can interpret. Okay, but you can also test if we could, of course, test if everything else equal, removing day of the year would affect the goodness of fit of the model. And then if there's a relevant decay in performance, you should keep it, of course. That's what I would advise for everyone to be sure if removing a variable was a idea, was to test if there is some significant decay on the goodness of fit. Okay.
But once again, what do you consider bank holidays? Sorry.
It's a normal holiday, so if
On normal holidays, all right.
on the 1st of May in
Yeah,
that 1st of May.
1st of May is an official holiday here in Bulgaria.
Yeah,
as well.
I guess in most of the world, the Western countries, it's a national holiday. So yes, the bridge day would be a day between the weekend and the day between the weekend and
Yeah.
a bank holiday. So so all typically is Mondays and Fridays. And you should simulate because many people try to extend their holiday by just using one holiday at work. Okay, so let's do this exercise. This exercise with the variable wind speed is comparing what happens if I input a spline of 4 compared to a spline of 10 of the automatically best fitted model. Okay. I guess I told you wrong about splines, the behavioral splines on a previous slide, where the higher the value of spline, the more the function will to adapt to the raw data. Okay, and the lower the value, the more the softer will be the response function of the model regarding the regressor. Okay, for wind speed, as for every other variable, I have a former expectation of how the demand responds to wind speed. As I told you on Monday, I expect that the wind speed will lower the of that day. Okay, more windy, the more cooler you feel. So more wind will result in more consumption, especially during winter, of course. On the peak of summer, it would reduce that consumption. But here the dependent plots work as in average temperature condition. Okay, so these responses are to average condition of all other variables. The only thing that varies to do this analysis is wind speed for the model. So other thing that I was expecting was that during the middle of the night, for example, at 2 a.m., the impact is much lesser since everyone is sleeping. It's much during the day, for example. And that is generally what happens on both models, where we have the interval that you can see here between the maximum and minimum value for this function on 2 a.m. on the hourly model is much narrower than here, for example, at 6 or 18 hours. Okay, you have a much higher interval. So that's according to what is expected previously on some knowledge we have from demand behavior to conditions. The other thing is that the impact of varying the spline from one model to another. And here is a typical example of overfitting. The automatically fitted best model chose 10 in order to minimize the error of indicators of goodness of fit. And the result was clearly an overfitting since the functions are a bit curvy, a bit twisted. I don't know, should I call it in the first place? That is a reminiscent. It reminds you of this kind of approach, this kind of functions. So it is always a signal of maybe we are overfitting.
It brings too much noise, yeah.
It captures the noise.
Yeah,
as being an explanatory of the realities.
But it gets too sensitive. Yeah, but it gets too sensitive when predicting it.
Yes. That's what, for example, the other strange aspect is that on these orange curve, almost always, and to extreme values of wind, the curve decays, and that I can't explain why should that be. Why should a function according to wind speed be growing, have a direct proportion? The more spin we have, the more we have, and then for extreme values, the opposite occurs. That isn't very logic to happen. So it is a bad sign. You should force the model to estimate more smooth functions to ignore the noise. And the result, as we can see here, is a more believable response function of demand according to wind speed. Okay. So this is an exercise I recommend all of you is to use that dependence plot T. The variables is consistent across hours. Okay, try to see the limit of the spline where it starts to be wavy and overfitting, and then choose a spline. Here in this case, I chose the minimum value possible, but you can adjust a closer value that provides you a curve you are confident with. You can be sure that the results at least make sense. Maybe they are not precise as you wish, but they make sense. This orange curve, for me at least, it doesn't make sense. Okay, and shows signals of overfitting, which is not desirable. And if you want to be confident about a forecasting model, you should be confident about the results on this analysis too. Okay, for this, as a summary for the automatically fitted model, there are wavy plots that suggest overfitting. The downward trajectory is hard to explain, so it's a negative point. But the higher range of impact is during daytime compared to nighttime, which is what was expected and effectively is what is observed. And for the variant, all these criteria were met, so we give it a positive for these criteria. Well, for irradiance, the same thing. I tried the splines on the automatically model was 10. I tried the minimum possible. And the results were more coherent with what I expected. Here, there's not much difference between there's less difference between the two approaches of the splines. Here on 6 a.m. there's a strange, apparently strange result, but if you look at the range of variables of the impact of irradiance on the demand here on the night hours, the 2 a.m., 6 a.m. Is almost nothing. So you should look at it as an horizontal line in practice. So there's no effect of irradiance, of course, during the night. Okay, and on both cases, these are insignificant effects on demand. Whereas during the day, as you increase the hours, you will see an increasing effect of irradiance on the demand, and then again, going to night, it disappears. So on irradiance, I was expecting to the more sunlight you have, the less need of lightning you'll have. Okay, and the less cooling needs your heating needs you'll need. Okay, so more sunlight, that means less heating. Okay, and that's a result I was expecting. On some hours of the day, we can also see that this spline of 10 tends to overfit and give strange results. So it is better to use a more smooth function to model irradiance or the impact of irradiance on demand. And I'm more confident on these blue lines than on the orange ones. Okay, so here, generally, the demand response is according to expected, so a descendant curve, but it's a bit wavy on these automatically fitted model. Whereas by reducing the spline, we fix this issue. So for smoother temperature, I only show this one because it is the same for all the hours. There's no sensitive difference across all the hours. That's a V-shaped function, and but on both cases, the smoother temperature obeys to what was expected for a temperature function. See, a nonlinear function, as you can see. So all the linear regression and lasso regression models couldn't fit this kind of relationship. So that's why you should choose GAN models and random forest. So they can estimate this kind of functions directly. And as you can see, the spline numbers aren't quite different, and the results are quite similar. So no concerns on the smoother temperature. As you remember, smoother temperature would approximate the compound effect of temperature on the demand. Not only the temperature you record on a specific day, but also on previous days. For as we know, having an average of 10 degrees Celsius on a particular day will have different impacts if you have previously a cold spell or not. So this smooth temperature is better to include the compound effect of temperature on a specific day. And that is the shape we are used to think about as when we are thinking about the response of demand to temperature. If you have an extremely hot day, you'll have an increase in demand. If you have a cold day, you'll have also an increase in demand, and then there's a sort of an indifference zone where there's thermal comfort and people don't use electrical appliances either to heat or to cool. Okay. For the unsmoothed temperature, I excluded that from the variant model, and that only remained on the automatically fitted best model. And the one thing the conclusion I reached is it doesn't make much sense, the results we are obtaining from temperature, when we include the smoothed temperature at the same time. Because we are on this AFBM model, we also included the smoothed version of the temperature. Okay, if we didn't include the smoothed, if we had only included the temperature, the results would be more similar to this one. Okay, but as this automatically fitted model included both, the result is that for the effect of the is isolated effect of temperature, we have these curves. That would mean that the demand only responded to increasing temperatures. Okay, so that doesn't make much sense to me. That seems the effect of cold disappears from on this function, and it doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, so the upward trend is difficult to interpret. It's less consistent results across hours. Okay, so that's why I chose to exclude from the variant of the AFBM model. Okay, you should be comfortable with all the results we are getting across all regressors. So if you are not comfortable, if that doesn't make sense whatsoever, you should. For the month, I tell you, I would expect not to see a very particular pattern across months, except with exception of August. And as we see here, August is predominantly the lesser impact on demand across all the models, but there's no rigid pattern where August differentiates clearly from all other months. Okay, either with the automatically fitted model or its variant. So the results are a bit puzzling on some of the hours for each one of the versions we include. Okay, so this should be I would expect more a result, as you can see here on the left bottom corner on the 14 at 2 p.m. where we see that August is highlighted somehow from all the other months. Okay, but that doesn't occur. That doesn't occur. That maybe that would be, yeah, Nikolai.
What have you changed, for example, between automatically best fitted model and between the orange and the blue curve? What have you changed?
I didn't change anything in terms of splines and etc. The only thing that changed was all the other regressors.
Aha.
You can see here the here.
Yeah.
We have different results because we included different variables.
All right.
Okay.
That explains the difference. Yeah, because I was wondering, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So there is no clear winner. There is no strong evidence that you should, apart from that legacy knowledge you have already. On the variant, the effect of August is a bit just slightly more pronounced, but still not exactly what we expected. So maybe you should investigate more of other solutions to incorporate the effect of August on the demand. Maybe include it as a calendar variable instead of using months. Maybe. We should approach this with an open mind and test it. Okay. So there's some mixed evidence about the response of demand according to what expected. That's not clear if it's good or bad, and there's a higher range of the impact of months during the day than during the night. That's consistent with former expectation of the response. Then have holidays. As I've told you, these are binary variables where you are in the presence of a holiday or not, or a normal day. In both cases, we had the expected effect is when you have a holiday, you have less demand, and the effect of the holiday is also according to expected, where during the day we have a higher range on the dependence plot between the maximum and the minimum compared to what happens during. So the effect of holidays during the night is much lesser than during the day. As if you remember a graph where I showed you a comparison between a holiday and the same day of the week on the week before, and you, as remember, the difference between the two load curves was higher during the day than during the night. So this inclusion of holidays is according to expected. So in the end, we can compare the results in terms of goodness of fit, of adjustment of the model to the effectively observed load data. So here we can compare the load data on black to all the other models. If you go to the tool and you click on the legend on each of these names, you can deselect the corresponding curves from the graph. So you can, if it results confusing to look at 3 series at the same time, you can click and select it from the graph, and then you can see all the remaining series are displayed. Shows you the border between the training set and the this inside you can see how well or how bad your model generalizes for forecasting purposes. And then on the residual plots, you can see maybe more clear the performance of those models. Okay, here it is displaying the error of the model, and as you can see, the variant I estimated behaves a bit better on the training sets, has less peaks compared to the automatically fitted best model. Okay, on the training set, it has also less peaks. The automatically fitted best model has better results on non-peaky zones, slightly better results. Okay. Of course, you want it to be as close to the to 0 as possible across all the data, at all the months and days you use to estimate the model, but that's never the case. So on the other plots, we have the average model error for the test set. You can see that on average, the automatically fitted best model behaved better on the test set than the my variant. And if you check across all the months, tool gives you automatically that statistic. The automatically fitted best model behaved better on the first months of the year and worse on these winter months, autumn winter months. Okay. So it's also always worth to check this also. You have a notion of how your model is performing on the test set. Okay. And then there's the goodness of fit measures that also the DFT generates. And then we can see that looking at these indicators, the variant performs better except on the map for the test set. All the other indicators and sets, it behaves better. Okay, just by doing those tricks to the model and removing some of the variables, including others, we get overall a best fit, a better fit. Okay, that's this result contrasts with what we get from here. Okay, for example. Okay, but that is explainable because as we have less peaks, and these indicators, especially RMSE, they penalize higher errors. And since we don't have much spikes on the residuals as the automatically fitted best model, the variant is less penalized on this indicator. That's why we have better results on this indicator. But as we can see, that is not. This doesn't apply to the average error on the test set, for example. Okay. Even though this indicator is better here. Okay, so as you can see, it's not always in black and white. There's always shades of gray in terms of the modeling. You have sometimes difficult choices to make. It's not always very easy to evaluate a model in terms of performance compared to other. Okay, so the conclusions for this example for me would be that the automatically fitted best model variant, the one that I created, sensitivity analysis reveals the model with the behavior more in line with our prior knowledge of the response of electricity demand to conditions. Okay, so I would be more confident on the variant looking at the dependence plots. The automatically fitted model, the rated model, the sensitivity analysis performed reveals some overfitting evidence. So it discourages you a bit of using it as it is. Okay. On the test set, the variant, there are relatively long periods where it performs worse compared to the original model, and but the variant is less spiky in terms of errors, as I showed you just now. So the variant model shows better goodness of its indicator over, but underperforms when controlled for day of the week and months. Okay, so there's mixed evidence about the variant beating clearly the automatically fitted best model, but based on the overfitting evidence and this behavior of demand of modeled response of demand to the regressors, if I would to choose between the two, I would choose the variant. Okay, but what this tells is you should explore other variable combinations, then estimate hourly and non-hourly versions to see if there are significant differences and one performs better than the other, and then compare forecasts between candidate models if you see to check if there are some strange results between one and another. So as you can see, it's a bit of it takes some time to estimate a model that may satisfy you, but you shouldn't only rely on the RMSE or the goodness of fit indicators. You should look at various indicators and various analyses to decide to stay with the model or not. Okay, these are just food for thought. Each one of you will have different realities, different conditions, different knowledges about your own reality. So you should use it. Should use it on this kind of exercise to make your results more robust. Okay. Okay. Pre-analysis. What we have here. Okay, so it should be before you start to use models as estimate models, should pre-check your data, of course. You should have evidence of historical effects of some special days on the demands. Okay, as we talked here, my previous experience on these subjects, I did some statistical analysis, for example, on the effect of Easter periods on demand, and try to check if the differences in behavior of the demand were significant, at least statistically significant, and I concluded yes, they were statistically significant. So looking at this historical fact, this knowledge should be incorporated on the model and the variables, the regressors used to model the demand. Okay? So it should be a coherent special day categorization based on previous knowledge. That's what's talked about here. For season outlook, it is possible to assess possible longer-term trends during the unmodeled period. Okay? Based on this assessment, timestamp features can be included in DFT models. I also explained it on Monday. There are hourly timestamps, daily timestamps, and monthly timestamps. those are essentially trend variables, deterministic trend variables. The only difference is how they increased across time, the rhythm that they increase. But this is intended to capture more of a long-term trend on the demand that can't be captured by all the other variables. Okay. Post analysis for seasonal outlooks. Look at the predicted versus historical data that can be compared as part of the actual year that is over. For example, you could do some estimation of 2023 based on these models, and then you can actually check the performance of the model using data that was not included on the data sample that the tool used to estimate the model. And you can do let's call it a real-time test for your models. Okay. So I guess this is just a summary of the workflow you can how you can perform it from reanalysis and then reassessment of your models, include more variables, not include more variables, etc. Improve your data. So I guess we reach the end of the presentation for today.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can maybe have a 10-minute break, and then if you would like to explain a bit the PMDB template, how the sex are going to complete it.
Okay, so we will look at the PMDB file next after the
Yeah.
break. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get back at 10:30.
Yeah.
Sorry, is there going to be some practical exercises with the tool or no?
For my part, I'm not able to use the tool right now. I'm having an issue,
right.
a technical issue. No, I don't know, Anastasia.
Yes, we can also create a test if you want to.
Okay.
And
I was just asking if this was in the agenda for today, or well, are you planning to have another training session using only the tool this time and going through different kind of exercises to see how we actually the tool performs and what can we do in terms of to correct some mistakes and errors that we get.
yes, although we did that the previous time. So we created the test and we saw some kind of errors, indicative errors that appear or when some files are not accepted in the tool. But yes, if you have any question or you would like to see something more thoroughly, of course we can go through it again.
Okay.
Okay, so see you in 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
It suggests 15 at 30 or
Yes,
no?
10:30.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
If everyone is back, we can continue.
Do you have any questions? Previous topics?
Okay, maybe we can continue with templates.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I don't have anything specific prepared, so I'm available to show you anything you want. No, I don't know if you have anything in mind to explain to the audience.
No, just a bit more specifically about the heat pumps and what exactly its input should be.
Okay. Okay. As you can see, a lot of attention has been given to heat pumps, modeling heat pumps on the DFT tool. As you can see, there's six tables regarding heat pumps and parameters to be included to model the behavior of heat pumps on the forecasting periods. Okay, you should be aware that almost is in terms of the park of heat pump devices, what you should include on the template is the additional number of appliances. Okay, so it should only increase not the stock of heat pumps, but the additional stock compared to the previous year. Okay, as it is explained on the template, but you should have that in mind. Okay, we have air-to-air heat pumps, air-to-water heat pumps, and geothermal heat pumps. Okay, and then you have the distinction between the the heat pumps that are replacing electric heating or electric cooling, of course, but and the non-electric heating, which means they are replacing essentially gas-based heating, or in some cases coal heating. Okay, so these three last groups would imply additional consumption. And the first three would imply, since heat pumps are way more efficient than classical electric conventional heating, that would mean a reduction. In the end, it would mean a reduction in electric demand. Okay. As for hybrid heat, which I guess it means that it can work either from electric energy source or gas energy source. Then we have a sort of a different algorithm to forecast. You also have the additional number of units that are replacing or are new to the park, with those consequences I just explained. And then the aspect of you can define where what are the conditions where you switch from electricity to the other energy source. Okay, that is relevant for the models. Since if you choose a switch temperature, it would mean that for temperatures under a certain threshold, the hybrid heat pump will switch to gas and then not consume electricity anymore. That has obviously impacts on the electric demand. And then you can use the coefficient of performance to determine whether there's a switch from to gas, from heat pump to gas, to a gas classical unit. Okay. As for air conditioning, we have only the distinction between air to air, air to water, or geothermal. And they are brand new units. They are not installed to replace a conventional cooling unit. And then here on the semi-tile, yeah.
So sorry, no.
Yeah.
Another question. What is the difference between air conditioning heat pumps, and could you go up, please? And heating heat pumps air to air, for example, because for me it's all the same. Or I'm not getting something that's
okay. Maybe I don't. I must have do a disclaimer that I didn't participate directly on the development of these units, but I guess from what I know, the air conditioning heat pumps are able to reverse the flow of thermal energy that heating pumps don't have. I mean.
so they're only for heating. I mean,
Yeah,
I get
yes, it should be it.
All right.
But we can
Thank you
check
for the
it.
explanation.
Okay. Maybe we can check it more thoroughly if that's the case. But for example, for Portugal, it would make more sense to have both in one unit, have the same heat pump being able to be reversed to air conditioning. And I know there are such appliances that are able to do that. But here, as it seems, they are modeled separately, the heat pumps and the air conditioning heat pumps. Maybe if you have a hybrid unit, you should account it on both sides, I guess. Okay, but their impact on demand should be treated separately, as they are used to heat or used to cool. Someone was wanting to talk?
Was me.
Sorry.
Was Livia, yeah.
Hi, hello, Livia.
Yeah. Just to integrate, yes, it's correct what you've said. So heating heat pumps are used for heating, air conditioner are used for cooling. So the physical unit might be the same, but you have to put the unit twice if you use it both for heating and cooling. So
Okay.
I get you now. All right, thank you. That was a good clarification because I was always wondering, and I
Okay.
couldn't really find a distinction between the two.
Okay. Nice. So there's also sanitary water. I guess it's for heating water. You have the distinction between two technologies, that's water and geothermal, and also the distinction between replacing existing heating waters and not replacing, just new units. Okay, those last two will add to the demand. Those first will tend to reduce the overall demand.
Maybe
Yep.
just a suggestion to here in the template, maybe put a distinction, air conditioning heat pumps instead of putting air conditioning, put something in like for cooling needs or something like this, and then heating, it's for heating, of course, but just to understand that we need to distinguish between heating and cooling, because it's not it's counterintuitive for me, at least when I saw it first.
Okay. Really appreciate those suggestions. Okay, heat pumps and building efficiencies. These are you should input the average coefficient of performance. That is the amount of electricity you need to deliver a certain amount of heating energy. Okay, this is for three types of technology. Okay, and to model, also you need to you input the increase in building efficiency. Also, this is a variation from year to year in terms of building of efficiency, thermal efficiency of buildings. This is not to input the overall expected efficiency of the buildings, just the increase from year to year. Okay, so be aware of that when using some of these lines are additionals and increasing. So this is a year to year delta. Okay, here we have the total consumption. This would be the target demand for this specific technology that
So,
we
sorry
should
for the
input
interruption
here.
once again. There are kind of specific inputs. If we put zeros, it can work, or you don't know, because to tell
Here,
you the truth, I'm not really sure about the total consumption of heat pumps for heating or matter for cooling. We don't
yeah,
have such as kind of statistics.
yes,
And
yes. You can input 0 here, and then the tool will make his own predictions.
all right.
This is just for adapting the load curves, the tool estimates to the trends and scenarios you want to assume
course.
officially.
All
If
right.
you don't have those scenarios, then the tool will perform the forecasts, and you either accept it or not.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. This is the auxiliary. This is not mandatory. This one. These. Correct me if I'm wrong, Livio, but I guess these are just for target demand for rescaling purposes of the scenarios for heat pumps.
Yes, I said that's rescaling purposes. Yeah, and the point is, if you use the rescaling option, you have to fill this value. So if you want to rescale it to a specific target demand, you have to fill in some value here. So I don't know if this is clear, because below you have the total target demand. Okay, okay. Okay, so the suggestion is, first you do a first run, you see how much, what is the consumption of the heat pumps, and then you can use that value if you want to rescale to a specific target demand. I
A
don't
good
know.
suggestion. All right. Thank you.
Okay, then there are this parameter where you can input restrictions to the activation of heating and cooling appliances. I guess in some countries there are restrictions where in some months, or at least during some months, you shouldn't be able to activate these appliances. For example, you shouldn't activate air conditioning during the peak of the winter. So there are restrictions to that, and then you can input it here. This table only has 12 columns, one for each month, where you can input. I guess it should be numbers between 0 and 1, or in other words, percentages. Or maybe 0 if you are completely unable to activate it, and 1 if you are able to do it. I can't recall the logic of exactly the logic of these, how you should input these numbers. Then there's batteries. We talked already on Monday about this. You should input here the capacity installed. The power and the capacity, of course. The percentage of those batteries that are linked to rooftop photovoltaic that you also inserted here, and the distinction of the use of the profile, the kind of use for those batteries.
You can input different values than 100% for PVs linked to batteries. Is that right? Because the default says it's 100%, but maybe for example, 50% are linked to batteries and 50% for auto consumption. Or it doesn't work like that.
No, I think all these batteries
Needs to be.
Yeah, either they are.
This is kind of this is where it gets confusing for me because yeah, I commented before that because this that says that it needs to be equal to the PMDB renewable sheet. Yeah, if we ignore that, but nevertheless we supply some kind of inputs for PV rooftops.
Yeah.
But then it does make sense that these if they're not included in the renewable sheet, then it does make sense just to to assume that they're either connected to batteries or they're all only for auto consumption, for self consumption. So that's what I'm asking. Is it is it the case that it should always be 100% when we put linked to batteries, or we can put a different number there?
I think that technically or theoretically you can have some batteries not linked to PV. I don't know if that is a restriction right now for the moment, or some modeling strategy choice. But technically, you can have PV production not linked to battery. But all the batteries you should input on the model are connected to PVs. Okay, you can have PV not connected to batteries, but all the batteries that exist should be linked to PV. We don't model batteries outside this PV environment of this PV ecosystem. Okay.
All right.
That's it. But you can assume that there are some.
For example, I can put like 100% of rooftop PV of PVs are linked to batteries, and then put 100% of these are all for auto consumption, for example.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I get you now.
Okay. The batteries should also always be linked to PVs, not the other way around. And all those batteries also can have different profiles. But be assured that the batteries that exist, that are assumed on the PMDB file, are connected to PVs. And then we have 3 different profiles for auto consumption, price related or fixed profile that you can define, I guess, for that. Okay, these are the percentages for those 3 types of use of batteries. Okay, and then the cycle efficiency of batteries is the proportion of energy delivered by the batteries compared to the energy used to charge the battery. Okay, so you can vary this parameter across the forecasting horizon. Yeah.
So sorry, quick question just to make it clear. So in row 52 on the PMDV file. So when we put 100%, in this example, you imply that all rooftop PVs have batteries installed.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Clear now. Yeah. Thanks.
If we had 50%, it would mean 50% of the PVs are connected to batteries, and there are the only batteries available in the system, and the other 50% have no batteries associated.
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Cool. Okay, and then we have all what we talked about. These are related to this line 70 is related to a rescaling option we have for forecasting. These 2 lines, the economic growth. This economic growth is was created originally in the expectation that we would create sort of modeling of the global demand responding to economic growth. That didn't came online. That estimation, but the model is prepared in a future iteration to include economic scenarios to feed the growth of demand. Okay, somewhat model the long-term growth of demand according to the economic growth. That is still not available. You can input any value you want. It won't have any effect whatsoever on the results. This parameter, I don't know if is activated right now. Don't know, Livio, if you have any notion of this increase of energy efficiency with respect to the previous year, if this is currently working.
No, as far as I know, it's not working. So
okay,
no.
That's what I thought. Okay, so but maybe in future version of the model you can also tweak this parameter. This will, I guess, this would only work for the base load. And if we want to tweak the efficiency of all these modules, the heat pumps, the batteries, etc., you should do it individually. And this would only affect the base load model. Here we have additional load profiles that you can input directly here in these models. You have the possibility of distinguish between weekdays, weekends, and special days, where you input the daily consumption of this kind of installations, appliances, etc., and distinguishing according to days. So this is a sort of target, a sort of target demand, but more specific. A more specific target demand that the model will then do the calculations and see how many weekdays you have in a certain year, and calculate the yearly consumption for industrial sites, electrolyzers, data centers, and others you want to include. Okay. Right now in Portugal, for example, we don't have electrolyzers on industrial scale, but we expect in the near future, within 10 years, to have some numbers to present here. So you would input the profile as you expected for the future for these realities. Okay, so this is something specific that is relevant in terms of the national demand. So if it's not relevant, you shouldn't lose time inputting here variables. But there are some things that are within our expectation in terms of maybe a new, for example, a new industry and or a new factory of automobile factory, for example. If you expect some new big factory that has, of course, a great impact on the annual volumes of electricity to be transported by the grid, you should include it here, since you don't have any other way to include it in your demand, since this base load model only looks at the past and tries to project it over the future. Maybe you could include it here as an industrial consumption and then include it in the target demand, of course. But if you want more tweakable and more precise, a more precise forecast and a more precise impact in terms of base load, in terms of load curve, you should input it here. Okay, so the peaks maybe would be better forecasted than including as an annual demand in a more simple way. Okay. So you have also an hourly profile that you can tweak according to these types of installations and this type of days. Okay. So here you define how much of that daily consumption is spread across the hours of the day. And you can customize these parameters. Sorry. For the module in electric vehicles, this table seems huge, but in reality is relatively simple. We have 4 types of vehicles. Some are lightweight, some are passengers, some are heavyweight types of vehicles. Where you can, in reality, you distinguish. They should be different in terms of these parameters we are defining here. So, I don't have any concrete example here, but we could have it. So for each kind of type of vehicle, you define the average usage during the week, the weekends, the special days, if it's summer, if it's winter, okay? And you can define the average efficiency of that kind of vehicle.
Can I make a little comment here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we experimented with this, but it turns out, I mean, the way we set up all the curves for the demand curves for the different types of the EV vehicles, it turns out that it has a tremendous effect on the load, and then suddenly the shape of the load is basically dominated by the electric vehicles.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of when you provide, so yeah, of course, certain numbers, but in the future, it is expected that the share of the electrical vehicles will entirely be, well, they'll at some point there won't only be electrical vehicles. So yeah, it's quite a big impact on the overall curve of the load.
Yeah. Okay. As I said before, this is these are simulation tools for this specific modules of electric vehicles, PVs, etc., these are simulation tools. So these are sophisticated calculation machines, where you can control how you can control directly why your forecasts are what they are, since you can decompose the numbers you reach can be decomposed, and you can identify what is causing those kinds of numbers. Of course, this is a bit complex, but you can do that. You can see
know
why it happens.
I know what is causing it. Roughly because after the 2030 the number increases.
Here.
Well, our prognosis is that it will increase significantly, and then the demand is basically dominated by the vehicles, by the electric vehicles.
So I should also remind you, a critical reminder, that on these lines where you see number of the additional EVs, it's also the deltas compared to previous years.
I know. No.
You shouldn't input here the stock of electric vehicles, but the variation of electric vehicles. Okay,
I'm well aware of that, but yeah.
Okay. No. This is just a general advice, because it can be overlooked sometimes. So just a quick reminder for everyone that tries to fill in these tables of that detail. That can be sometimes it's not can be forgotten. Okay. So you can have different profiles for charging these vehicles. Okay, these are the percentages of the stock of the whole stock of vehicles that are fast charging, medium charging, and slow charging. This has of course some effect. You define what is fast charging, medium and slow charging profiles are defined here. Okay, for each kind of vehicle. Okay, you can define the profiles for fast, medium, and slow charging, and you can also distinguish those profiles between weekends, weekdays, and special days. Okay, if you don't have a notion of if there are different behaviors according to weekdays, weekends, etc., you put all the same for fast, medium, and slow. But you can define different profiles according to these three variables: type of vehicle, type of charging, and weekdays, type of day. Okay, you can define this also. You must, of course, obey to this restriction that all the coefficients we input here sum up to 1. Okay. And this is a fraction of EVs with a vehicle to grid capability. I don't know if this has impact on the profiles. I guess not. I guess it's maybe used to do other calculations. I don't have it clear. Okay, and here are residential prices and profiles. This would be for the users that have some market related batteries associated with PVs, but have a profile where the usage of the batteries depends on the market conditions of the buying price and the selling price of the batteries. Okay. And here you define a different profile according to the year you are estimating also. Okay. And this would be equal for all the days of the year. On this sheet, you do the heating profiles. Okay, you distinguish between months and type of day. Okay. Just define it, and it won't change from year to year. It remains as it is. These profiles. Okay, these are within year profiles. And the cooling profiles are the same, okay, for each month and type of day. You define profile that will be used, assumed by the model. And the same for water heating. And these are the factors that will be used to simulate each one of these type of appliances. And I guess that's it for the presentation of a presentation of the PMDB file. If you have any question, please be my guest.
No, just a quick
Yes.
one on the annual demand on the totals right at the bottom. So the only number that we must provide is the last row 80, yeah. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
The ones are for just for I guess for consistency, and if you want to know
okay.
what we compose the total electricity consumption, but they are not directly used. They are not used at all. The only row that the tool uses is this one.
So the tool will not try to check if the sum of the above matches the no. Okay, good.
No.
All right.
As far as I know, it doesn't.
Cool. Thanks.
So there is a question in the chat of what exchange rate we must use or projected rate.
Excuse me, what are the
last question.
which years are needed to be included?
For that, what exchange rate we must use?
Exchange rate?
Sorry, guys. I mean the currency exchange rate for the filling tabs, residential prices, and profiles for the future.
Sorry, I'm not.
It depends. It depends on your local currency and on your local because
Of course, but
it says price of electricity is in euros per megawatt hour or per kilowatt hour. I don't remember what it's about.
Yeah. Actual year or for the future.
For the if you are making of course projections about future years, it would make sense to provide for future years as well.
But for this moment, we must use projected currency exchange rate or actual.
But I would suppose you need to put projected exchange rates, but if you don't have any knowledge, then maybe you should leave it at current. And not it depends entirely on you.
May I add something?
Maybe Luna can comment.
Okay, so you need to fill this information just if you have battery that tries to optimize the system cost. So this is the when you actually use this kind of data. So if you don't if you don't have any battery, any percentage of battery linked to PV, you don't need to fill this kind of information. Then this is just this is so the problem is going to be a linear optimal problem, and is going to see whatever, so the deltas here, it does not compare with other countries, so it's just a local problem. So you can put what actually counts here is the difference of price between our one and our two, and so the only thing that matters is the delta, and of course the delta between the hours and the delta between maybe the years. Okay, but
Okay, George, thanks.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Aside
basically
of-
it's not mandatory. It depends on if you're using
yes, and you can use local currencies as
Yes.
well. I mean,
Okay, what I understand is that what matters is the profile of prices across the day. This would be average profiles, and then the model will choose where the batteries will charge and discharge. So the currency is the less important feature. The more important is where the batteries we will choose to charge and discharge in order to optimize the usage. Am I correct, Livio?
yes, perfectly. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So in this simple example, the prices will be higher.
But this
Overnight.
applies only for the. Can you go to the first sheet? No.
Yeah.
But this applies only for
To this.
row 54.
54.
Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah. This only
So
applies
if
to
we
the. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we have like 100% of the PVs are linked to batteries and 100% are using for auto consumption, then you don't need to supply any prices.
That's correct. That's correct. The information on this sheet won't be used in that case. No, sorry. This. Okay. This only applies to the market-related batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Thank you.
Also the capacity. If you have zero battery capacity, you don't need to do that. I mean, but like this case.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question on the chat. I have downloaded the PMDB template and tried to upload it again. I get the following error. Okay, a precision may be found in the following message. Please check that there is no empty cell in the heat pumps values before 2023. Okay.
So yeah, I was going to answer to that, but so you should check in the first sheet in the annual demand in the first table as Nono is projecting right now.
Okay.
Yeah, not to leave any empty cells.
Empty, yeah. It should be zero, never empty.
I think they're not empty, but I still
Okay.
get this error message. But I'm not that familiar with the data and this sheet, so it's quite possible that I missed something.
Yes, can you please check?
I will check again, but it should be on this sheet, like the annual demand, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. It should be here. Yeah.
Okay, then I will check again. Thanks.
So Anastasia, I don't know if we leave it here or we want to make some demo with the tool of some specific feature. I don't know.
If the tool is working, yes. I mean, if there's no technical issue or something.
But mine is not, so I can't do that. I cannot do that.
Okay. I will try from my side. So, okay, we can create a project. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, nice. So yeah, let's create a test. Here you should select your company, and we will also add the winter outlook here. And we go to import. In this section, we select the market node. And just for the purposes of time, I'm just going with mock data right now, the scenarios.
I'm sorry, Anastasia.
Yes.
Could you select UA00, for instance?
Okay, let me try. So we have 01.
Oh, okay. You have UA01, but we in Ukraine have nothing.
I'm sorry?
We don't have access to UA.
Maybe we should let our developers know, and
Okay,
the new
okay.
market node will be created
thank
here.
you.
Okay, it's not something that will take too long, so don't worry about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so here, yes, you select the date, the scenario, and I'm just going with mock data since there are already some mock data in the database. And I will leave this choice of data from the database in this case. Otherwise, in your case, when you select national trends in the scenario, you should also be able to custom upload your PMMDB file with your new input data, as it will not be already stored in the database unless we do it for you, but we'll give you more instructions about that later on.
I have a question, Anastasia.
Yes.
We are always learning. Never be afraid that. Though
Yes.
on the upper screen, where you choose national trends, mock data, etc. These are only for labeling. This is only for labeling, or it has impact on the data that is inputted in by default on the tool?
So it is linked. Each scenario is linked to the
Okay.
files that we upload.
Okay.
So yes, there should be a link.
Okay. Okay.
But you can always, I think, yeah, you can choose more scenarios.
Okay. Okay. But you custom upload. But if I choose national trends and I, for example, Portugal may have a scenario, a national trend scenario there. You can customize the upload, or that function should be locked in case you have some official scenario associated with what you are choosing. Example for mock data, I believe you could, of course, customize your upload, but for national trends,
yes, you can also customize it.
You can also upload. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you can do tweaks.
It should be for every scenario.
Okay.
Or here. Yeah, yes, it should be for every scenario.
Okay. So you must be also always conscious of the consistency of the customizations you do to the tool, if they respect the scenarios you are choosing there on the select scenarios, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Exactly. So just for now, I'm going with no data, but in your case, you should select national trends.
Okay.
I load the files from the database. Shouldn't take too long. So as I also mentioned in the previous session, you can also monitor from here the process of your task. And so the orange square is showing the fact that it's under progress. And you can also see here how much it needs to be complete. Here we have a projection of the historical load that you can also download if needed. And the same goes for PCB data and the calendar file. And we go to the modeling part. Here you should see the correct time frames that you want the training time period to be and the test time period. You validate if you agree with these periods. Otherwise, you can also change them. And if you see that something is not correct, or the time period that you want it to appear here is not enough, that you want a larger period, for example, if here it shows 2017 until 2018, there's probably something wrong with the calendar file. So you need to check that again. And after you think that this is correct, you validate it. And then you create your model by either importing the model from the one that already exists.
Sorry, Mr. Sir, can I just
Yes.
interrupt you
Yes.
for a second? Can we choose a different testing period, or it's always 2020?
So I think that
So 2019, sorry.
it depends on it depends on the training period also that you're choosing.
Yeah, of course.
When it will end. So if it ends sooner, I mean before 2019 and 2018, for example, you can also select from 2018. So yeah, it depends on when
I've
the
had
end
some
of
difficulties with this, but that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
In the past, yeah. But yeah, I'll make sure to see the calendar files again.
So
Mhm.
may I add something here?
Yes,
So,
of course.
Yeah, you can change. You have to select an entire year, so you cannot select like 2 months or 3 months, or so you have to select an entire year, I
Alright.
believe. And also, the testing time period is going to be your reference year. So if you have 2019 as a test time period, 2019 is going to be the reference year, and you have to put new technology starting from 2020. But if you select the testing period 2018, then the first the first year where you have the reference year is 2018 then, and the first year you have to put new technology is 2019. If you have 0 in 2019, it's going to be 0. So
you're talking about the DFT template file,
PMDB, yeah.
the PMDB template file, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the PMDB template file. Yes, in the PMDB template file.
That's good to know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but the default is 2019. I suggest to leave the default for make things simpler.
Is there any other question?
No for me.
Okay. So we validate here the time periods, and then we choose the model. So there are already some automatically fitted-based models that are suggested here. You can also create a new model or use one of these ones and adjust the parameters. We import the model, and you also have the possibility to add more models and compare them at the same time. Here you can change the parameters and the number of splines and the different parameters that you want to use, as mentioned earlier in the presentation. You run the modeling. And in approximately 2 minutes, it will be done, probably. It will not take too long now. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay, so our modeling is done. And now the results should appear in the screen. Here we have the partial dependence plot with all the parameters that are included in our model. You can see each one here. Taking a bit of time to load, but it shouldn't take too long.
May I add something? Is that if you choose to run different models for this market node, different dependence plots would appear here, so you could compare the results between them.
Yes, exactly. So you should be able to see them one next to the other and compare them.
As you saw on, as you saw on the
Yes, yes.
slides, I had orange graphs and blue graphs that came from running two independent models for the same node with differences in modeling, of course, modeling choices, and then see what the difference were for each regressor. Okay, thank you, Anastasia.
You're welcome. Exactly the same applies here in the load, where you should also be able to see the different curves, the same plot, and compare them, and also their fitness. And also in the residual plot here and below. And later on in this table where you see all the statistics and the results, and you can compare them among them. But just pay attention, as I have probably already said, that you need to select a model, even if there's only one, in order to go to the forecasting. So as you saw now, I had to select it and go on to the forecasting. Otherwise, the forecasting will not be able to start. You will not be able actually to even go to the forecasting step.
But Anastasia, I think it's worth mentioning that if you want to compare, imagine you had to estimate two models in this case, and you wanted to compare the forecast of those two models. Then you can always come back, deselect that's one of the models and select the other, and then run a different projection, right? If you had two, you can always come back and generate new forecasts.
To be honest, I haven't done this, but
Okay.
if you have
I guess it does. I guess it's but
Okay.
then you must be careful to label the outcomes if you want to keep it, keep record of those results, to label them correctly and organize your output files so it doesn't get confused. Okay, just my recommendation.
I would suppose you cannot select two models simultaneously. I mean,
No.
to do the forecasting, so it must be only one.
Yes,
Yeah, all right.
it should be only one.
Yes.
Okay, so we go on the forecasting. We select the time period that we want to forecast. Maybe I will choose 23. And now I will go only for one for climatic year, but you can also use all of them. And here you can also add more forecasting time periods. Here you can either deselect this option of calendar used as the same as the forecasting year, or leave it as it is. I will now leave it as it is and just use PCD adjusted climatic data, and also the rescale target demand for our forecasting, validate my choices, and run the forecasting. Just don't forget to press both of these buttons here, otherwise the forecasting will not start. And this step is the one that takes longer, since it starts the forecasting at the same time when it's close to the end. Also the reporting starts, and the generation of the reports with the results. So depending on the climatic years that you're choosing or the market nodes that you are forecasting, it will take a bit longer to be complete.
Can I ask you something? Because right now it's fairly straightforward because you're using PCD version 3.0. Am I right? For the climatic years, yeah. But
yeah, it's 3.1, I think.
But
yeah.
PCD, yeah, but PCD version 4.0 will be completely different, and it would include projected years. So, is it expected for the tool to be also to be updated so it kind of it can use also the PCD data 4.0, or it'll keep using data 3.0 or 3 point something?
Yeah, that's a good question, and thank you for this. So this is under discussion, and especially for the future. I mean, for ERA probably 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Livio can interrupt me if he knows something more. For the moment, yes, we're using 3.1 PCD data, and later on we'll use the projections. So we need to discuss with our developers how we're going to ingest this kind of data in the database, and how exactly this is going to work, if there are going to be some changes in the formats or no.
Okay, yeah, just to add, for ERA 2024, maybe we are going to use PCD 4.0, so the new version of the PCD. Of course, if we if ENTSO-E decide to use the new PCD, yeah, the tool have to be able to use the projected year. Using projected year is not that different because I mean, instead of using 1981, you're going to use, for instance, 2040, I'd say, and then you can select maybe multiple models or multiple emission scenarios. So but it's just a different selection of what you're going to emulate here. So it's going to be
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. Also, of course, all the temperature or wind speed and everything is going to be updated based on the
Yeah.
selection you make here.
But it kind of is like you still you have to make some changes into the tool in the interface. I'll suggest it won't be because it's a projection this time. It's not based on historical data patterns. It's based on historical data patterns, but it's a projection instead of like only doing like a reanalysis of the data. So yeah, it's be interesting for me to see how this will develop in the future.
Yeah, so I don't know, my idea would be that instead of historical climate years, you have projection climate years, and then you run your simulation with this difference.
Yeah, indeed. So it's not decided yet whether there are going to be changes either in the interface or in the format or in the display of something in the tool. But in case something will change, we will let you know. And it will probably take some months from now. It will not be immediate, as it will probably affect ERA 24. So I hope I have answered your question. So the forecasting is done, and you can here you can see some first results of the forecasting, and you can also compare them to your inputs in the PMMDB file, and if the numbers are correct to what you are expecting. So you also have some graphs here, and I think that you can also download them. Also in CSV or XLSX format. Then you can just proceed with the results and download the reports that you want. One more option here is that you can also compare the scenarios that you have selected. Here we only have more data, but in any case, if you have more scenarios, the same market node, or even for a different one, but that's only in case your country has more than one PCB zone. You can compare the different scenarios. So this is it, unless someone wants to intervene and explain something a bit more, or maybe if you have any more questions. Yeah, we'll take this as a no.
Sorry, that's another
Yeah.
comment. When we download the results for the, can you go a little bit downwards?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the adjusted report?
Well, the adjusted report, yeah, the climatic years are all over the place in the file. I mean, they're not arranged in order,
Yes.
and it's, yeah, this is, you need to manually order them one by one, because yeah, you only have one
Yes.
climatic year, but if you put all 35, they're all over the place. I mean,
Yes,
this is kind of like
inconvenience.
a inconvenience, yeah, a little inconvenience, but nah. probably you cannot be done. It cannot be done any otherwise. But so.
We can discuss that with our developers, and if it's possible to arrange them chronologically, would be easier indeed.
I would also like to remind you, as I explained on the on Monday, if you choose various climatic years and you proceed to rescaling to target demand, be aware that no specific climatic year will match to the target demand. What will happen is that the average of all climatic years is adjusted to the target demand. Okay, just be aware of that. Just to remind you of that detail on the results. Okay. On the I guess there's the global report. You'll have the average demand that is calculated, and that must match with the target demand if you chose the option to do rescaling. You'll have the average yearly demand that must meet what you inputted on the rescaling, but no specific climatic year will produce that result. It's the average of those climatic years that are equal to that target demand. So from here you extract the result of the max peak would be the worst, the maximum peak you normally associated with the most demanding climatic scenario in terms of electricity demand. So. Don't know if there is any further question.
Also, the rescaling report is not so different from the
Yeah.
one from Trapunta, right? So there should not be many changes here. Okay, if you don't have any other questions, maybe we can close the call, and we will send you the slides, of course, and also some instructions about what is going to, how the workshops are going to take place. We will let you know soon, and as well as some instructions for the seasonal outlook modeling and forecasting tasks. Thank you all for attending, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.